To win the English Premier League, a football club has to survive a grueling 38-game marathon. Historically, that makes the league a closed shop. The teams with the deepest pockets filled the deepest rosters, and those massive financial budgets almost exclusively dictate who lifts the trophy in May. In the summer of 2015, Leicester City existed at the opposite end of that financial spectrum. They had just barely survived relegation to a lower division, having spent 140 consecutive days chained to the absolute bottom of the league table. Right after escaping the drop, the club's ownership made a highly controversial decision. They fired their manager, Nigel Pearson, the man who had just saved them from ruin. To replace him, they brought in Claudio Ranieri. It was a move that baffled the British press. Pundits openly mocked the decision, writing Ranieri off as a manager past his prime who was mathematically likely to take the club down. This chart compares the bookmakers' opening odds for the upcoming season. They gave Leicester a 5,000 to 1 shot at winning the championship. To put that in perspective, mathematicians calculated you were more likely to correctly guess complex, rare world events than to see this squad win the title. Leicester City entered the 2015-2016 campaign as a statistical outlier. They were navigating a financial and sporting system explicitly designed to favor clubs with 10 times their resources. Between August and November, the team began to generate a quiet, unexpected surge. Instead of trying to dominate ball possession, they relied on a fearless, lightning-fast counter-attacking style that caught opponents completely off guard. Leading that charge was striker Jamie Vardy. Just a few years prior, Vardy was playing non-league amateur football and working in a factory making medical splints. Now, he was setting a Premier League record, scoring a goal in 11 consecutive matches. Beside him was Riyad Mahrez, the team's creative engine. His technical flair allowed Leicester to slice through the defenses of elite, heavily funded clubs. By Christmas, this patchwork team of cast-offs and bargain signings was sitting at the top of the Premier League table. Yet experts and pundits still predicted a collapse. Historical precedent suggested that mid-season underdogs eventually burn out, simply because they lack the roster depth to compete with richer squads over a long winter. As the pressure mounted, Claudio Ranieri stepped up to the microphones. He used his press conferences to diffuse the tension with humor, actively absorbing the media glare and shielding his players from the growing expectations. On the pitch, the system relied on midfielder N'Golo Kanté. His work rate and defensive positioning covered enough ground to effectively give Leicester an extra player, allowing their counterattack to function. The proofs of that system arrived in early February with a 2-0 victory over Liverpool. Leicester systematically dismantled a historic giant, proving their run had substance. Just days later, they traveled to play a heavily favored Manchester City squad and delivered a 3-1 victory. This was the moment the championship became a mathematical reality. These specific winter victories shifted the global narrative. Leicester was now a credible threat to the established football cartel. As the season entered its final weeks, the immense spring pressure began to crack the traditional favorites. Teams like Arsenal, Manchester City, and Tottenham started dropping critical points. Leicester, by contrast, displayed tactical discipline. They kept their nerve, grinding out narrow 1-0 victories to secure points while the rest of the league stumbled. The tension culminated on May 2nd, while the rest of the football world held its breath. Claudio Ranieri was thousands of miles away, flying back from Italy after a lunch visit with his 96-year-old mother. Back in London, a chaotic match between Chelsea and Tottenham was unfolding. After a fierce battle, the game ended in a 2-2 draw. The final whistle of that draw at Stamford Bridge mathematically closed the gap. This officially crowned Leicester City as the champions of England. The global reaction was immediate. Fans flooded the streets and market squares of Leicester, engulfed in blue smoke as they celebrated the title. The next morning, the international press scrambled for superlatives. Headlines across the globe, from Milagro Leicester to History Makers, tried to process the shock of the season. This chart compares the Leicester City roster cost against the billion-dollar valuations of Manchester City, Chelsea, and Arsenal. Their victory broke the absolute rule of that financial hierarchy. The data proves a managed system of cast-offs can systematically dismantle seemingly unbeatable financial Goliaths. Leicester City's triumph remains a case study in how tactical discipline and resource management can override the influence of billion-dollar budgets, serving as a permanent reminder that statistical probability is not destiny.